And we're live. Awesome. So just gonna paste and pin a comment with our exclusive code, which we always do now for our Instagram lives. And I think Andrew's on now, so we can have him join, hopefully. Hopefully the Instagram technology gods are on our side today. Yay! Hi, Andrew.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you? How are you?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah, nice and loud and clear. I've just popped my volume up as well. Can you hear me all right?
I can. You're very quiet, but I can just about hear you.
Okay, I'll try yell a bit. Yeah, technology is always difficult, isn't it, when it comes to lives? I don't know. So for the benefit of people who have just joined, we've pinned a comment with the code Wizard10 for 10% off our Edinburgh tour. So if you sign up for early access to the tour, you can use that code and use that for a discount. And we love discounts, so of course that's always good. So I think we'll just give it another minute or two, let people join. So how are you, Andrew? Hopefully the weather on your side is faring
Really,
well.
really good. The Scottish Highlands, where I live, is absolutely blazing today. Everyone thinks Scotland is always raining. We've got blue skies. The sun is out. It's really, really warm. If only it was like this for the other 364 days of the year. So I suspect that July the 7th is summer in Scotland this year.
Of course, yeah, a little bit of sun and we all get excited. Why wouldn't we? I was going to say I was in Edinburgh for when I was studying there, and winter in Edinburgh is a different kind of brutal. I wasn't prepared for it, so I can imagine a little bit of sun. It goes a long way.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Okie doke. Okay, so I think we'll just dive right in, if that's okay with you, Andrew, into the Q&A. Okay, so I think a good place to start is if you just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into doing walking guided tours in the first place.
Okay, so my name's Andrew Baxter, and I live in the glorious Highlands, as I've already said. And about 5 years during 5 years ago, during one of those really long, dark, cold Scottish winters, I saw a newspaper article about our local university here in the Highlands and Islands offering a course to train as a Scottish tourist guide. And I'm not really thinking that I would be guiding, but I was more sort of interested in the Scottish history and the culture, wanted to learn a lot more about that because I've always been interested in history. Thought I would sign up for it. And a year later, I found myself qualifying as what's called a green badge guide here in the Highlands, particularly specialising in the Scottish Highlands. And I thought I'd do a couple of tours, maybe during the summer months. And then I found that not only did I like and absolutely love showing people around my country, I was actually quite good at it, I hope, as well, and found that it sort of took over my life and became a part of my business. So I haven't really looked back. And in a normal year, if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would be out on the road virtually every day from Easter through to the end of October. A little bit different at the moment, but we're seeing people coming back. And I hope that lots of you out there, wherever you are in the world, will be able to come and visit Scotland sometime in the future. Maybe I'll meet up with you and show you a bit of my country.
Yeah, completely. Fingers crossed. It's a beautiful city, so to experience it firsthand is really something. On that note, actually, so obviously with the pandemic, you were sort of, I think that was a sort of new opportunity for you to venture into the virtual space when it came to guided tours. I'm curious, like how different was that? Was it intimidating? Was it more valuable in some regards? How was that whole experience?
I actually started offering virtual tours pretty much within a fortnight of the first lockdown, all the way back in March last year. And it was a little bit intimidating. And I suspect if I look back at those first virtual tours, they were a little bit ropey as I got used to the technology and got new pieces of equipment. So my sound was better and the cameras were better and things like that. And I was doing a live virtual tour from my study here every week on a Friday evening to hundreds of people from across the globe, different places in Scotland. And as time went along and I got more confident, I was starting to charge for tours and doing them for private groups for birthday parties. And then, do you know what? Someone came along and said to me, Andrew, you thought about doing a Harry Potter tour around Scotland, but as a Halloween special. And I thought it would be a one-off. And I did it, and it proved so popular, and people were asking me if I would do it as a private group, or I would do it for their brownies, or if I'd do it for their Christmas party over in San Francisco. And I think I went through my diary just a couple of days ago. I've now done a Harry Potter themed tour around Scotland virtually 177 times since Halloween. So I haven't really looked back. But it's great now to be able to do it a little bit different and using a different technology through Globetrotter and everything you guys have put together with me.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can imagine that, you know, sort of that, oh, I'll just do it once. And then obviously I can imagine there's a huge demand for Harry Potter, especially in Edinburgh. So actually on that note, so I guess were you introduced to your love of Harry Potter through living in Edinburgh, or did you kind of already have it and it was reawakened when you were in Edinburgh?
We have to go back in the mists of time now. It's almost as old as the ancient pyramids of Egypt. The year is 1995, and I stepped off an overnight sleeper for the very first time in Edinburgh. It was my first job after I left university. And I don't think the world had really heard about Harry Potter. Then the first book had come out, but not too many had people had figured it. And it was probably, I don't know, 2-3 years later when I had moved back down south. I'd been promoted, and my secretary's 9-year-old son came into my office during the holiday and said, Andrew, I think you'd like reading this book. And he showed me a paperback version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And I thought, do you know what? I'm not sure I want to read a 9-year-old. It has been reading, and I put it down on my desk, and it was there for a few weeks before I finally picked it up over a coffee and started flicking through it and read the first couple of chapters, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I was gripped, and I've been gripped ever since. And moving back to Scotland, not just Edinburgh, but actually living in the Highlands where they filmed so many of the movies has meant that it's even more important to me these days.
Yeah, I mean, as a, I guess, self-professed Harry Potter fan, I actually didn't realize how much of a link it had to Edinburgh until I went there myself. And, you know, obviously, without spoiling the tour, there's so much, you know, inspiration that I guess J.K. Rowling got from the place itself, walking down the streets, and you kind of get to relive that when you're doing the tour itself. So yeah, I mean, I kind of working off that. I guess outside of the Harry Potter aspect, what was it about Edinburgh that really shone to you, that really drew you to it as a city? What was so unique and special about it? If you can kind of venture out the Harry Potter realm for for a moment.
It's such a beautiful city, and I think this is what always surprises people where if they've never been to Edinburgh before. And I don't think it's like anywhere else in Britain. It's got a very, very different feel. And what really drew me to it was actually walking along the Royal Mile in the evening when it's dark and
Yeah.
all the tourists have gone, and walking up and down some of those staircases in the lanes and the closes. And you sort of really feel as though you've gone back to the 1500s, to the medieval ages, just as Edinburgh is emerging as an important city in Europe. You really feel as though you're there. And do you know, dare I say it, the sights and sounds of that, if you sniff really loudly, really deeply, you almost feel as though you're in medieval Edinburgh as well. And that's not to say that Edinburgh smells, because it definitely doesn't. But all of
Yeah.
those senses are suddenly sort of spinning around you. And I think that's really what made me fall in love with Edinburgh. And that love's never diminished in all the years that I've been going back there.
I honestly, I think that's something you translate beautifully into this tour, is that sort of, excusing the pun, apparating back to the past almost, I guess. You do feel like you are in that period of time. And obviously there's so much history just seeping out of the building. So the fact that so many of them are still there, practically untouched, there's a really visceral feel about it that I think is quite rare. You know, you're used to sort of reconstructed models, or sort of reiterations of history, but this is really stepping into it, which is rare, and I found really treasured for stepping through this tour. So yeah, I think you did that beautifully, if I can say that. But if I can ask before I do, actually, anyone who has a question for Andrew, please do comment it, and we will ask him. He's a brilliant person to ask. Anything pertaining to Edinburgh, anything pertaining to Harry Potter, anything pertaining to both. Best person to ask is Andrew. So please do comment it and we will run through them. But while we're waiting for that, I do have a question from me, which is, I guess, without spoilers if possible, what was a part of the VR tour that you really enjoyed filming or prepping for, or just the whole creation process? What was a part of it that you really hold close to your heart?
I think it was thinking about how some of the history and the culture of Edinburgh has amazing parallels with the Harry Potter stories. You know, most people probably don't realise that 400 or 500 years ago, Edinburgh and Scotland was in the midst of a witchcraft panic. And you certainly didn't want to be a witch walking around the streets of Edinburgh hundreds of years ago, because it's likely that you would have been arrested, tried as a witch, and probably executed in really gory ways. And so it's rather nice to be thinking about witches and wizards now in Edinburgh and the link, and thinking, if you really are a witch, it's quite safe to walk
Yeah.
around the streets of Edinburgh now. But it's interesting, that history with witchcraft and how attitudes were very different then. So I quite enjoyed thinking about that when I was putting together the tour. Now, when you have a look at it, and this is a little bit of a secret, it's bright blue sunshine in Edinburgh. It looks a glorious day. You would think it was the middle of summer when I filmed some of the pieces there, but I can tell you, it was absolutely freezing. I've got my Hogwarts Slytherin scarf around my neck, and I was almost shivering because it was towards the end of April, and we had this really cold snap, unexpected. And fortunately, it wasn't snowing, but it was really frosty and icy when I set out that morning. So I'm somewhat surprised you don't see the vapor coming off my off my lips during the recording. So, but that's just a little secret between you and me, that it was so cold and it wasn't really a summer's day.
I 100% believe you on that. As I said, winters are quite brutal. It's something you have to brace yourself for. But that being said, it's a sort of different kind of, it adds to the experience, I like to say. Okay, we've got some questions coming through. We've got, how do we book the tour? So if you just go on our website, you will have an option for either on-demand tours or live tours. So on demand, you can do You can do the Edinburgh tour, Harry Potter tour, whenever and wherever, I guess, you want. So 4 a.m., 4 p.m., 5 a.m., 5 p.m., in your living room, outside, as long as you have a good Wi-Fi connection, it's up to you. And don't forget, obviously, we've got the pinned discount code, so do make use of that. We also have the live tours, which you will get to walk through with Andrew himself, and you can ask him any burning questions as you go through the tour itself, which, I mean, that's a treat in itself. So we have, I think this is a good one for you to answer, Andrew. We have, I booked a city break to experience the food festival. What other things can I do during my overnight stay that is easy to get to via public transport? My hotel is in Haymarket.
Well, that's a really, really good question. And if you're staying, if your hotel's in the Haymarket, you're so close to so many of the attractions. The great thing is you can probably step out of your hotel and you're a couple of minutes walk from the trams that goes from Haymarket all the way into the city of Edinburgh. It's only a couple of stops, and you will find yourself in Princes Street, which is the main shopping district in the centre of Edinburgh. But even more exciting is it's below the historic castle. You'll see it as you step off the tram in Princes Street. It's just a 5-10 minute walk up onto the Royal Mile, where you will find the castle, St Giles Cathedral, the real historic centre of Edinburgh. Or if you want to be a little bit more modern and head into the 1800s, you're also right next to the new town in Edinburgh, where you have these beautiful Georgian buildings laid out on wide thoroughfares. Really, really beautiful. And if you're feeling energetic, and I'm sure you are if you're going to a food festival and you want to burn off some of those calories that you've been consuming all day, I would head a little bit further. I get the bus out to the Palace of Holyrood House on the outskirts of the town centre, and from there you can walk up Edinburgh's own mini mountain. It's called Arthur's Seat. Anyone who's reasonably fit will be able to walk up there, and it's the perfect spot to watch the sunset over Edinburgh, over the Firth of Forth, and you can see out to the mountains in the Southern Highlands. Absolutely perfect. And if you've picked up some samples during the food festival, you could have a little picnic sat there on the summit. I can't think of anything better.
I can't either, actually. Sitting on Arthur's Seat, eating food that you've gathered sort of scavenger style. Oh, that's a brilliant day out. So hopefully that
make sure that you're taking a dram of whiskey with you. It would be completely wrong if you're not up there with a little bit of whiskey to warm your insides as the chill comes down once the sun set over the horizon.
Exactly. You got to warm yourself up, purely to warm yourself up. We're not, encouraging anything otherwise.
Of course not.
I hope that answers your question, though, Miss the Evil Twin. Yeah, as I said, guys, if you have any questions, do keep dropping them. I guess something that I'd like to ask as well is, I mean, we've labelled this as the Harry Potter tour of Edinburgh, but obviously, I mean, for me, I do think that that's sort of an add-on. It's sort of, if you are a Harry Potter fan, there's sort of Easter eggs and treats that you will enjoy. But if you're not a Harry Potter fan, is this still a tour for people? Is this still a tour that they can enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely it is, because as you say, it's not the Harry Potter is the add-on, and we'll go to a few places that are definitely associated with Harry Potter, but we talk a bit about the history. I was talking about that rather gruesome history from the medieval ages or from the 1500s onwards. And I guess the beauty of the live version of it, where it's not just listening to what I'm talking about, but you can actually interact with me. You have the advantage of actually being able to say, hang on a minute, Andrew, I just spotted something there. Can we turn the camera so we can have a look at that? What's that building there? So you can talk about other things as well, and learn a bit about the history and culture of what we're seeing on the screen. So you do definitely, I can guarantee, 100%, do not have to be a die-hard Harry Potter fan and have watched all 8 movies, read all the books to appreciate this tour. It's about a whole lot more in Edinburgh than just that.
Yeah, perfect. Wonderful. We've got another question. Phoebe Carter. How long will the tour last for, and what are both of your favourite Harry Potter books? Oh, I'm excited to answer that. So for how long the tour will last for, that'll depend on if you're doing on demand or live, Phoebe. So if you're doing on demand, it'll be about 45 minutes. And if it's live, it'll be around an hour, provided you're not bursting with so many questions that you're keeping Andrew there forever. But so Andrew, what is your favourite Harry Potter book?
This is really easy. Without hesitation, my favourite Harry Potter book and my favourite movie is The Prisoner of Azkaban.
It's mine too. There we go.
It's a fantastic movie and a fantastic a book because it introduces some really fascinating new characters. We've got Professor Lupin appearing as the teacher for the Defense Against the Dark Arts. We've got Sirius Black. We've got, we learn more about Professor Snape, and it's full of action. I think it's a fantastic book. So that's definitely my favourite. What's your favourite?
That's mine as well.
That's fantastic. Great minds think alike.
Of course. I mean, I've always sort of been that very passionate, it's Prisoner of Azkaban. Why is there any other answer? But obviously it's, you know, opinions differ. Do let us know, everyone, what is your favourite book? And if you have reasoning, do let us know. But I have to agree with Andrew. For me, it is The Prisoner of Azkaban and the movie as well. I think the werewolf transformation scenes was one of my favourite in the whole.
And do you know, in this tour, we actually go to a place where J.K. Rowling has told us that there's a little interview that you can watch as well. He actually tells us that this is one of the places that I wrote some of The Prisoner of Azkaban. It's a little cafe coffee shop in the centre of Edinburgh called the Elephant House. And that's definitely a Potter pilgrimage place for anyone that comes to Edinburgh. And she's told us that she wrote The Prisoner of Azkaban. So I quite like going in there for a cup of coffee and a big slice of chocolate cake. And pretending that I could be as great an author as J.K. Rowling and come up with this fantastic wizarding world that she's done. But so there's another tip for you. If you're in Edinburgh, head to the Elephant House Cafe, and we feature it in the virtual tour as well.
Yeah, and I will add on to that, if you do the tour, you can actually enter the Elephant Cafe, and there is a part of the Elephant Cafe that I didn't actually know about, and there's, I'll say it this way, there's a lot of messages that you can take your time reading and having a look at what people have left. I'll leave it at that. Phoebe said, I love The Prisoner of Azkaban book too. She's on the same wavelength. I think it makes sense. Georgia says Goblet of Fire for me. She's been a bit controversial. But I guess it's opinion. Yeah, perfect. So guys, if you have any more questions, we have about 5-ish minutes left. We don't want to keep Andrew too long. As I have mentioned before, the code is there, Wizard10. Do use it. It's applicable to both kinds of tours. So if you do, the tour's not released yet. It's very, very soon. So do keep vigilant on our social media. It's very, very close. But you can actually sign up for early access now and use the code for the discount. So do make use of that while you can. Okay. While we're on the subject of Harry Potter, we might as well ask, I think you mentioned a while ago something about Slytherin scarf. Does that mean that you belong to the House of Slytherin?
So I'm sat here with my Slytherin mug. Unfortunately, it's not full of butterbeer tonight. It's just a rather cold cup of tea. Of course, I'm in Slytherin. It's the best house of them all. Why? To be quite honest, why would anyone want to be in Gryffindor? That is so boring. Or a Hufflepuff. I just can't understand it.
So Ravenclaw's okay. It's just Hufflepuff.
Ravenclaw, they tend to be know-it-alls. that you've got to sort of suffer, but it's Slytherin all the way.
I will say I do think Slytherin has a bad rap. Obviously, I think a lot of people associate certain characters with Slytherin. Slytherin's a good house. I have to agree. I mean, Salazar Slytherin. That's
Slytherin's just misunderstood. Okay, there's been a few bad apples, you know, like who must not be named. We'd rather not mention him. But what I always find odd is having done lots of these tours, how many people rather like Draco Malfoy, which I always find quite surprising. Whether that is because they find the actor Tom who played Draco Malfoy is rather cute, particularly as he gets older in the later films. I'm not so sure, because actually I think he's quite a nasty character in the books. But there we are.
Again, opinions, everyone. It's opinions. You can have your opinion. Andrew has his opinion. Let's not get vicious about it.
Oh, absolutely not. We could spend years discussing the merits of Slytherin and Draco Malfoy and all the others. That's the beauty of the Harry Potter books.
It really is. And on that, I mean, I guess on that note, everyone who's read all the books, I guess part of it is, you know, you do kind of learn things, the nuances of each house, of each character as you read more books. So obviously, if we're sticking with the whole Slytherin thing, there's so many people in Slytherin there was more to the story. We kind of read it on face value. There was a lot going on behind closed doors that we didn't really keep in mind. But I mean, so obviously, guys, if you do the live tour, this is the kind of stuff you can discuss with Andrew. You can, you know, if you don't agree that Prisoner of Azkaban is the best book or movie or whatever, that's the best time and place to make your point and argue that point. But yeah, so I think that's most of the questions. Yeah, so the questions are all answered, I think. So I think that's it. So before we sort of sign off, just want to mention again, the code is there, Wizard10. Do make use of it. We highly encourage you, of course, if you can, to do the live tours. You can actually do live tours and book a slot, and you will be in a group with up to 10 people who are, you know, sort of tuning in around the world. It's a great opportunity, and I can sort of vouch for, you know, during this time that, you know, we've kind of got all these travel restrictions. We're not all really allowed to go the places that we want to and see the people that we want to. It's such a great way to sort of transport yourself to somewhere else and just experience a new thing and have a good time. So do make use of that, and do make use of the code. Make sure you try.
There's another advantage of that, because Edinburgh, particularly in the summer, can be really, really, really busy and crowded and quite difficult to see things. So the advantage of the virtual tour, particularly the live one, is you haven't got all those crowds, and you can stand there on the pavement without being bumped and jostled and ask questions for as long as you like, which we really can't do for any length of time if you were actually doing it for real in Edinburgh.
There you go. So you can sit in your pajamas on the sofa without any worries of anyone bumping into you and asking you to move. There you go. So obviously both live and on demand is there. So whatever you guys want to do, that's up to you. But yes, and make sure you follow Andrew on Instagram at Glen to Glen, I believe.
Glen, yeah.
Which, while we're on there, let's would you like to tell us a bit about why is that your username? Why is that Glen to Glen?
Do you know, it's really, lots of people ask me that, and when I was starting as a tour guide and what my username or my business name could be, you know, there's always the obvious things like Scotland and something and things like that. And Scotland is renowned for its scenery. If you head out of Edinburgh, it's renowned for its scenery, and our valleys are called Glen, and I like nothing better than hopping from Glen to Glen, and so that became my username. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant. A simple explanation to a beautiful username. Love it. So yeah, do follow Andrew at Glen to Glen, the number 2. And make sure you follow us as well if you haven't, because we will have more lives in the future for future tours, and we will be interviewing more, you know, Q&As with more tour guides, and you will always get a discount code as a thank you for joining the live. So do make sure that you join. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so much, Andrew, for this was such a pleasure to have this Q&A with you. So thank you for joining.
Fantastic. Now, before I say goodbye, we have a special way of saying goodbye here in Scotland,
Oh, okay.
because we always like people to come back again. So we never say bye-bye. We simply say hasty back. So hasty back.
I love that. Okay, guys, we're not saying goodbye. We're saying hasty back. I love that. And hopefully, yeah, we're not saying goodbye. You're gonna be back. So that's I like that. So hasty back, guys, and Andrew too. Thank you so much. Okay,
Hasty
bye.
back.
Bye. Take care. Have a good day. Bye.